Hello everyone. I'm afraid I don't speak any Czechs, so this is going to be in English. My name is Projjol, I'm from Sponsor Pay. How many of you have heard of Sponsor Pay? 2. Okay, so I'm really terrible at my job. Basically, Sponsor Pay is an in-game advertising platform. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can use advertising as a retention and monetization tool in online and social games. So I'd like this to be interactive. If you have any questions while I'm talking, just raise your hand. If you don't agree with something I'm saying, also just yell at me, that's fine. One thing real quick, I don't usually have this mustache, I only have it in the month of November. If you're feeling generous, please donate to our cause. There are about 25 of us from Sponsor Pay who are growing mustaches. We all look equally terrible. There are photographs of us online, so feel free to check us out. Okay, acquisition, retention, and monetization. The ARM framework, I'm sure all of you have heard of it. It's something you probably use in your day-to-day measurement. Today I'm going to talk about retention and monetization. So, this is how we look at the conversion funnel at Sponsor Pay. I'm sure you guys have all your own metrics. This is kind of what we do based on our product suite. We look at brand advertising as being the tool for top of the funnel monetization, and then offer-based payments being the tool for monetization lower down in the funnel. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. How many of you currently use advertising as a retention tool? Anybody? Okay, hopefully we can change that. So what's the biggest problem with retention that you guys face today? It's that users have so much choice, right? At the moment, they can pick an online game, they can pick skill games, they can pick virtual worlds, they can pick social games. Any user has so many options available to him or her that it's really difficult to secure their attention. How can we use brand advertising to secure this user's attention, to move the user from a first-time player to a recurring player, somebody who keeps coming back to your game? And this is an example of the product in action in Bigpoint's big game, Farmerama. It's Bigpoint's largest game. Actually, the product is quite simple, right? The user's in the game, he or she watches the video, he or she gets credits for it. Now, why does this work? It's because advertisers are really keen on in-game advertising, at least in this kind of engagement advertising, videos, advert games, things that can be displayed within an in-game player. So, research from the two largest advertising houses in the world, WPP and Saatchi both show that users are really open to this engagement advertising within games. And if you do a little bit more research, you find that this kind of advertising actually has a very positive impact on the brand. So it makes sense for the advertisers. What's important is, why does it make sense for you? The first is in-game engagement. The longer the user spends watching these videos in your game, the longer the session length. I'm sure everybody here measures session length. If you're not, you probably should be. It's one of the key metrics that most developers agree is important for retention. And engagement advertising, these videos and such, have a very positive impact on the amount of time the user spends in your environment. The second is investment, stickiness. So why does advertising help stickiness? Because the moment the user watches a video, he or she gets some credits in the game. And automatically, he or she has an investment in the game, which boosts stickiness. Unlike any other game where maybe they haven't watched an ad, and they don't have any investment, they don't have any credits, they don't have anything driving them back to the game. In your game, if you have an ad that gives the user some credits, automatically that first-time user has some incentive to come back to the game. And of course, the other big thing with brand advertising is the perception. If you're a young developer who's launched a game, and you don't have a lot of brand value in the market, And having premium brands within your game actually enhances the user's perception of your game. And that's how it helps retention as well. Using chocolate, of course, they have a big brand, but yet they use brand advertising in their social games. This is an example from, I believe, Millionaire City, which is one of the largest games on Facebook. A little bit more intense is Smeet, which is a big online virtual world with over 1 million monthly users. They actually integrate the content within their virtual world, as you can see that player up there. And they don't just do videos, they've actually now started doing streaming TV as well within their game. So the users actually incentivized to come back within the game and watch TV along with all the other avatars, whoever else they interact with in the game. So what are the results from these kind of things? Well, for one, in Bigpoint, there's a lot of very positive feedback from the users in the forums, and we've seen this. But what's also interesting is that Bigpoint saw 50% increase in their revenues after, well, in their offer revenues after they integrated our in-game player. And that's what brings me to offer-based payments as a monetization tool. Does anybody have any experience with offer-based payments? Okay. Hope to change that as well. What's the biggest problem with all these free-to-play freemium models? That, right? Everybody knows this. Of course, for people it ranges between 1% and 10%. That's a huge chunk of the pie that you can't monetize. You're not monetizing right now. And our goal with offer-based payments is to change that, to move those players who are not paying into players who do play, who do pay. And how do offer-based payments work? This is an example from French developer Isco. They're one of the larger developers on Facebook, social games. So the model is quite simple, right? The user completes some form of advertising offer, and in return for that action, he or she gets some credits in the game. Why is this important for you? Well, for one, this model targets all the non-paying users, so the 90 or 95% of your user base who are currently not monetized. This is where you can monetize them. It's untapped potential for you. The second is conversion, and this is really important for you as well, because it's not just the monetization, it's not just that they watch these ads. A large percentage of these users who complete ad offers in your game actually move on to becoming direct payment users. And I'll show you some case studies as well. So what happens? They use the offer-based payments as a method of sampling your virtual currency or your premium content. The users who are on the fence, the ones who don't really want to pay, they use the offers maybe once, twice, 3 or 4 times to try and see what the virtual currency is, what it can do for them. And more often than not, once they sample the currency, they realize that they want to buy it. And offer-based payments are a little bit more friction, a high friction method than direct payments, right? So they move on from offer-based payments to direct payments. And of course, there's also the branding impact. It's less so in offer-based payments because a lot of the offers are surveys and such that are not necessarily premium brands. They're from market research companies. But you also do get examples of very premium brands advertising with offer-based payments. And here are some examples. So, great media. Offer-based payments can be placed at the point of sale, right? Just down there, in addition to the direct payment methods. And this does not cannibalize the direct payments. What happens is it prevents cart abandonment. So more often than not, you find users who arrive at this point in the conversion process and then they drop off because they don't want to pay. Having an additional payment method that does not require them to pay actual currency, actual cash rather, but just requires them to complete some form of advertising works. This is from GUG.cz, another huge publisher. As you can see, the offer wall can be customized to the colors and the look and feel of the game to a large extent. Offer-based payments are not just the offer wall, right? The offer wall is the largest, it's the easiest thing to integrate. You can also integrate banners. So Zynga does a lot of these offer-based payment banners, where you can either have the banners within the game environment or outside. But they're a huge revenue tool for Zynga. Smeet again, a virtual world. They integrate the banners within their game environment. And this is the example I was talking about of premium brands within the game environment. So if you are a developer who doesn't necessarily have a lot of clout in the space, then having Projjol or having Coke or having some of these large brands within a game environment actually boosts your brand perception quite a bit. What are the results from these offer-based payments? So King.com, I'm sure all of you have heard of it. 50% increase in the virtual economy revenues after you created offer-based payments. More importantly also, the offer-based payments didn't cannibalize their direct payments. So it wasn't that users started doing offers and stopped paying. The non-paying users, the one who weren't paying earlier, moved on to offer-based payments and finally to direct payments. ISKU, almost a 400% increase in their revenues from running these banners within their game environment. Smeet integrated offer-based payments as an offer bar on top. So this is just in the browser windows, right on top across the game. It's a persistent bar. It continuously rotates the offers that are available to the user. They saw a 30% increase in offer revenues. This is consistent. This is not one campaign, it's not two campaigns, it's not 1 month or 2 months. This is over the course of time. This is a 6-month study. 30% increase in offer revenues just from integrating that bar on top. Smeet likes to monetize its users, right? Smeet also integrated these ads within their game environment. So they had avatars walking around advertising free currency, resulting in a 60% increase in offer revenues, and 20% of the users who completed offers eventually moved to direct payments. So 1 in 5 users who completed offers actually went on to becoming a paying user. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?